The Secret Book and Scone Society by Ellery Adams. Books are everywhere, and always the same sense of adventure fills us. Secondhand books are wild books, homeless books. They have come together in vast flocks of variegated leather, and have a charm which the domesticated values of the library lack. Besides, in this random miscellaneous company, we may rub against some complete stranger who will, with luck, turn into the best friend we have in the world. Virginia Woolf. The Secret Book and Scone Society members: Nora Pennington, owner of Miracle Books; Hester Winthrop, owner of the Gingerbread House; Estella Sadler, owner of Magnolia Salon Spa; June Dixon, Miracle Springs Thermal Pools employee. Pine Ridge Properties Partners: Neil Parrish, Fenton Greer, Colin Stone, Melissa McCavity. Chapter 1. Oh man. That's 8. Okay. Chapter 1. A book must be an ice axe to break the seas frozen inside our soul. Franz Kafka. The man on the park bench stared at the empty space above the knuckle of Nora Pennington's pinky finger. Strangers were always hypnotized by this gap. They would gaze at the puckered skin stretched over the nub of the finger bone for several awkward seconds before averting their eyes in disgust, pity, or both. Like most strangers, the man's attention could only remain on Nora's pinky for so long. She had other fascinating scars. He couldn't fixate on just one. His chin jerked slightly as though he knew he was being impolite and should look away but was powerless to do so. His eyes slowly traveled over the bubble of shell-smooth skin on the back of her hand. It was pinker and shinier than the round surrounding skin, and Nora sensed the man had an irrational desire to touch it. Years ago, when Nora was in the hospital, a night nurse with silver hair that flashed like fish scales when caught by the light told Nora that the burn on her hand was shaped like Iceland. "That's where I'm from," the nurse had added proudly. Her voice was part grandmother's lullaby, part chamomile tea, and part chenille blanket. It was the only thing that penetrated Nora's veil of pain. "You even have the two peninsulas on Iceland's western shore. See? They're like a pair of crab pincers." Nora hadn't opened her eyes to look. She didn't want to acknowledge Nurse's presence. She didn't want comfort. She wanted to be left alone to sink deeper in her ocean of agony and remorse. The man on the bench shifted, bringing Nora back to the present. He was studying her right arm. This was her darkest, angriest scar, a Portuguese man of war jellyfish swimming through her skin from wrist to shoulder. And while part of its red and purple belt disappeared to the sleeve of her white blouse, there was an impression of other sea creatures emerging above the collar. A parade of pale, glistening octopi drifted across Nora's neck and cheek, forever trapped in the ripples and wavelets the flames had carved into her skin. The man's eyes strayed to Nora's other hand, the unblemished one. This was unusual. Most people finished their inspection of Nora's face with a forlorn expression. She knew exactly what they were thinking when they wore that look. What a shame. She'd be so pretty without those scars. But this man hadn't responded with the too bad so sad expression. He was clearly more interested in the scone she held than in continuing to study her burn scars. Nora felt herself relax in the stiff posture when when newcomers expected her. "Excuse me," the man pointed at her decimated pastry. "Where'd you get that?" Nora, who had been feeding the scone to a small flock of mourning doves, replied, "From the gingerbread house. They're called comfort scones. The baker, Hester, makes custom scones based on what she thinks her patrons will be comforted by. You should pay her a visit. I love scones, but I haven't had one in forever. I used to have a chocolate chip scone every Thursday afternoon at this little coffee shop near my office, but that was before everything changed. I couldn't look the barista in the eye after." The man fell into an abrupt silence. He sat very still and watched the doves devour Nora's crumbs. When every last piece was gone, he asked, "Why are you feeding yours to the birds?" A customer dropped it on the floor while I was in the bakery buying a cinnamon twist. Nora said, "I prefer cinnamon twists over scones because they're easier to eat while I'm reading. That's my main priority when it comes to food. People are obsessed with calories, nutritional value, antioxidants. I look at food and wonder, can I eat that without having to put my book down? This elicited a small smile from the man. He pointed at the yellow building with the cobalt blue trim and doors on the far side of the park. The former train depot, which had been converted into a bookshop, possessed an air of charming dilapidation. So I take it you hang out here pretty often, he said. I do. Dusting crumbs from her hands, Nora added, Miracle Books is my store. Hearing this, the man pivoted to face her. The sudden movement startled the doves, and he took off in a burst of alarmed coos and whooshing wings. An African-American woman working at the thermal pools told me about the recent bibliotherapist. Was she talking about you? Nora saw the need in the man's eyes. She'd seen it hundreds of times, but only from those who dared to look directly at her. This woman said that the bibliotherapist was able to help people solve their problems in recommending certain titles. The man gestured at Miracle Books. It makes sense that you own a bookstore. I have no official training, Nora said, uttering her standard disclaimer. Before I came to Miracle Springs, I was a librarian. I haven't taken a single course in psychology. I've never done any formal counseling. The man frowned in confusion. This woman said that people seek you out when the rest of the services in town fail to make them feel better, but I don't get it. How can you succeed where all of the professionals and the healing waters can't? Nora shrugged. There's no guarantee my method will work either. I read all the time and I listen to people. I really listen. She held the man's dubious gauge. Stories don't change much across continents and centuries. Hearts are broken, pride is wounded, souls wander too far from home and become lost. The wrong roads are taken, the incorrect choices made. Stories echo with loneliness, grief, longing, redemption, forgiveness, hope, and love. Now it was her turn to point at the bookstore. That building is stuffed with books that once opened reveal a communal story, and if you're lucky, the words in those books will force you to grapple with the hardest truths of your life. After reducing you to a puddle of tears, they'll raise you to your feet again. The words pull you up higher and higher until you feel the sun in your face again, until you're suddenly humming on the way to the mailbox, or you're buying bouquets of Jabrera daisies because you crave bright colors, and you laugh again as freely as champagne bubbling in a tall glass flute. When's the last time you laughed like that? The man's mouth twisted. He was trying to hold his emotion in check to keep his pain from overtaking him. His hands gripped his knees so hard that his knuckles had gone white. He looked away from Nora, and she thought he might get up and leave. Instead, he said, How does it work, this bibliotherapy? Go to the gingerbread house and buy a comfort scone, Nora said. Tell Hester you're coming to see me and she'll put your scone in a take-out box. I have coffee, but the fanciest thing I make with my espresso machine is a latte. So if you're used to soy no-foam mochachinos, you're going to be disappointed. I confess to making decisions that have complicated my life and complicated my principles, the man said, but I've never taken my coffee any way but black. Then we're off to a good start. Nora got to her feet. While you're eating, you can tell me what brought you to Miracle Springs. She held up her hands. This won't be like a traditional counseling session where we sit down and you talk for a long period of time. You won't need to go into detail with me. Only need a broad brushstroke, a brief glimpse into the heart of your pain. That way I can select the right books. After that, you can start reading your way to a fresh start this evening. The man grunted, infusing his exhalation with a feeling of dismissal. I'm not much of a reader. Nora moved away a few steps, then stopped and spun on her heel. You came to Miracle Springs to make changes, didn't you? Becoming a reader is a change for the better, trust me. No one has ever lost by becoming addicted to stories, to the lessons learned by those who possess enough courage to put pen to paper. You've got a point, another dismissive grunt. What's the worst that could happen from my opening the cover of a book? For the first time since they'd begun speaking, Nora smiled, and because she was showing the man the unblemished side of her face, he saw that he was utterly transfixed. Next. You have no idea, Nora said. Her smile wavered before completely vanishing. Stories are just like people. If you don't approach them with an open mind and a healthy dose of respect, they won't reveal themselves. They won't reveal their hidden selves to you. In that event, you'll miss out on what they have to offer. You'll walk through life an empty husk instead of a vibrant kaleidoscope of passion, wisdom, and experience. The man studied her for a long moment. I don't want to be empty anymore. I came to Miracle Springs days ahead of my partners to figure out how to fix things before it happens all over again. Nothing's worked. My partners arrive on the 3 o'clock train, so I have nothing to lose by giving your method a shot, he grinned. At the very least, I'll have a scum for my efforts. Why is this celebrated gingerbread house? Nora gave him directions and then continued on in Miracle Book. She had things to take care of before the man returned for his session. The trolley from the lodge would be arriving soon. The trolley, all loads of rich and penniless souls, paid Nora's bills. Nora Pennington loved selling books. She loved talking to people about books. Oh boy. Oh boy. Nora Pennington loved selling books. She loved talking to people about books, but what she wanted most was to heal people using books. 4 years ago, when Nora had been a patient in a hospital burn unit, she prayed for death. Not only were her prayers unanswered, but she was also given first-rate medical care with the perfect prescription of stories, courtesy of an Icelandic nurse with silver hair. First, the nurse brought Nora books about physically deformed men who were capable of great genius, devout love, accident, madness, or all of the above. And while Nora refused to watch television or receive visitors, she grudgingly reread Frankenstein. Next, she was given The Phantom of the Opera, followed by the Christine Sparks version of The Elephant Man. Are you trying to depress me? Because I don't think I need any help in that department, Nora had grumbled to the nurse. She'd been angry. She was always angry, and when she wasn't angry, she was depressed. She felt no other emotions. In response, the nurse had laid a copy of The Hunchback of Notre Dame on her bed. Guess I'm ready for Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde, Nora told her caregiver after she finished the Victor Hugo classic. You're heading in another direction, the nurse had cheerfully informed her, placing John Green's Looking for Alaska, Karen Kingbury's Waiting for Morning, and Krista Hanna's Night Road on Nora's nightstand. Because of the narcotics, Nora hadn't immediately realized that the theme of this current set of novels was drunk driving, so she read on. As she turned the pages, her emotional pain became as intense as her physical pain. Why are you doing this? She whispered to the nurse one night. You heard about my accident. I thought you were kind. You have to sink to the very bottom, my child. The woman whispered in her lullaby voice. After that, you can push off with both feet and start swimming toward the surface. You're strong. You can get there. It's gonna hurt. You have to clean out the wound before it can heal. Let the stories be your antiseptic. Bear the pain now for a chance at a better tomorrow. Otherwise, you'll repeat the same mistakes that landed you in this bed. Nora had read every title. When she was done, the nurse had brought her a book called The Burn Journals by Brent Runyon. It's a boy who set himself on fire when he was 14. She told Nora, I know you didn't burn yourself on purpose, but I thought you'd like to read about his recovery process. He might even make you laugh. I doubt it, Nora had thought. She'd done a terrible, terrible thing. There would be no laughter in her life, never again. But she'd read the book, and the next one, and the next. The night before she was to be discharged from the hospital, Nora asked for more books. You're a librarian, the nurse had replied with a smile. You know where to find them. Nora dropped her eyes. I'm not going back. I need to start over in another place. The nurse had sat on the edge of Nora's bed and taken her good hand in hers. What would this place look like, the place where you'd begin a new life? It would have lots and lots of books, Nora had said. I can't live without them. Gazing at the lights and omnipresent haze of the urban sprawl outside her window, she went on, It would be in the country, somewhere remote and lovely. A place where people still grow vegetable gardens and build purple martin houses, where they have pets on posters stapled to telephone poles. A little town, not so little that everyone will pry into my business, but small enough that the locals will eventually get used to my appearance. Eventually they'll stop whispering. And what will you do for money in this paradise? The nurse had asked. At this question, Nora had gone clammy with fear. She'd been so caught up in her fantasy that she hadn't considered the practicalities. During her lengthy convalescence, she ignored visitors, phone calls, and letters, but as of tomorrow, she couldn't hide from the outside world anymore. Her burn scars had begun to throb, which was good because the pain kept her grounded. She wanted to feel pain. She deserved it, so she embraced it. I'll open a bookstore, she said calmly. I have some savings, and if I find a town that needs a bookstore... Doesn't every town? The nurse had interjected, her glacier blue eyes twinkling with humor. Nora had smiled. Smiling hurt the burn wound on her right cheek, but she owed this woman a smile at the very least. If it's one's soul, then yes, everyone needs a bookstore. Every town needs a bookstore. Nora pushed open the door to the miracle books of the jingle jingle of sleigh bells. They weren't a light, melodious tinkle, but a loud clang that erupted from a leather horse harness covered in baseball-sized brass bells. Nora bought the harness at the flea market and hung it from a nail on the back of the door. This way she knew when a customer entered the shop, even if she was at the other end of the labyrinth of bookshelves she'd created to funnel people from the front ticket toward the ticket agent's office. Everything in the store, from the fainting couch to the leather sofa and the assortment of upholstered chairs in various stages of degeneration, came from yard sales and flea markets. Occasionally, Nora made purchases from the local auction company, but these treasures were reserved for her home, a 4-room tiny house that had been once a functioning railroad car. The locals referred to her diminutive abode as Caboose Cottage because her refurbished train car was a cheerful apple red. Flipping the shut sign over to read open, Nora continued walking deeper into the shop. She needed to brew coffee. The trolley would be pulling into the public parking area any moment now. Nora entered the small office where train tickets were once sold to Miracle Springs travelers. In order to convert the office to a basic coffee dispensary, Nora had removed the ticket windows glass divide and hung a chalkboard in the opening. The chalkboard listed the literary names of the beverages Miracle Books offered. The Ernest Hemingway Dark Roast. The Louisa May Alcott Light Roast. The Dante Alighieri Decaf. The Wilkie Collins Cappuccino. The Jack London Latte. The Agatha Christie Earl Grey. From time to time, customers would suggest a new and complicated espresso recipe along with a suitable author name to match. Nora had learned to treat people's feelings with care since her life had taken such a dramatic turn on a dark highway 4 years ago. Or smile and praise the person for their creativity. She would then confess that her second-hand espresso maker could barely handle steaming milk, but if she ever had the chance to upgrade, she'd keep their idea in mind. At this point, the enthusiastic customer would glance around the shop and notice, possibly for the first time, the piece of duct tape on the split chair cushion, or that the reading lamp burning 1 bulb instead of 3. Seeing as they come to Miracle Springs in search of healing from a physical or emotional injury, it wasn't always easy to tell. Nora's customers were usually empathetic people, therefore they dropped the subject, order a coffee from the menu, and spend more money than they'd originally planned. Nora made the latter especially easy to do by filling the bookstore with impulse buys. Not only did she stock new and gently used books, but also signed books, collectible books, bookmarks, book plates, and shelf enhancers as well. Shelf enhancers were what Nora dubbed the bookends. Figurines, framed prints, paperweights, clay pots, bird cages, portrait plates, decoys, folk art, miniature needlework plaques, tea caddies, inkwells, apothecary jars, depression glass vases, tin signed stone bursts, vintage trophies, brass scales, old game boards, and so on, which she strategically placed on every shelf. Nora purchased every item at its rock-bottom price. She had the yard sale seen on a certain Saturday mornings, and on occasional Sundays she'd come to flea markets examining any item captivating her interest with extreme care. The local vendors had come to respect her discriminating eye and shrewd bartering skills. They also knew that she had resold their wares at a profit, but the profit margin was small, and they didn't begrudge her a living. What else is a woman like that going to do? Some of the less charitable sellers would whisper, seeing themselves as magnanimous for giving Nora extra discounts here and there. Of course, Nora knew exactly which vendors felt this way and didn't hesitate to accept said discounts. All she had was Miracle Books, and she'd do anything to keep her store afloat. Almost anything, Nora thought, scooping coffee grounds into a paper filter. She hadn't been very open to suggestions from local readers, most of whom were women looking to start a book club and use Miracle Books as their meeting place. Nora was fine with that aspect, but she stoutly declined when asked to serve as the book club facilitator. "I can't," was all Nora had told Mrs. Cassidy at the time. It wasn't that she didn't like the idea of discussing a work of women's fiction, and plates of homemade desserts were passed around, but Nora never put herself in the center of the crowd. She felt truly comfortable only inside the ticket booth, with a thick wooden counter separating herself from other people. To sit in a circle facing a group of women? No, they would start asking her questions. They want to get to know her, and Nora couldn't allow that to happen. She'd come to Miracle Springs to forget. The sleigh bells jingled and jingled from the front of the store, and Nora glanced at her watch again. It was still too early for the trolley, and there was no chance that the man from the bench had made it to the gingerbread house. Had a customized comfort zone prepared package for him and was now ready for his bibliotherapy session. That meant the newcomer was a customer. Nora would let him or her wander in peace. She never approached browsers unless they gave off an air of needing help, and Nora had become adept at reading people's vibes. Back when she was a librarian, she didn't pay much attention to the vibes. Once a patron requested a book on color auras. The title was long out of print and could only be acquired by interlibrary loan. Nora was filling out the form. As Nora was filling out the form, the patron informed her that she had a dark red aura. You're practical, hardworking, loyal, and honest, she'd said. You're also a survivor. You've had or will have to face a serious trauma. Nora, who foolishly believed herself to be content, dismissed the woman's reading as the ramblings of a New Age hobbyist. The trauma was coming, however. It was rushing toward Nora like a runaway train and she stood directly in its path. Too busy with work and other obligations to realize that she was about to be moved down. Do auras change? Nora wondered as she pressed the brew button on the coffee maker. They should be, because people change, for better and for worse. In the distance she heard the whistle of the afternoon train. Nora never tired of its long, heart-rending note. Whether the sound could convey both the romance of returning home and the ache of leaving taking. The next whistle, which would blow in approximately 5 minutes, meant that the train was just about to enter the narrow, dark tunnel preceding the Miracle Springs station. Suddenly, the space where the tip of Nora's pinky finger used to be tingled. She stared her hand discomfited by the sensation. She never experienced a feeling before. Excuse me, said a soft female voice, and Nora hid her damaged hand behind her back. Yes, can I help you? She asked, averting the bird sign of her face. Like all strangers, the woman noticed Nora's scars. However, she only gave them a cursory inspection. Do you carry cookbooks with scone recipes? I just ate the most amazing scone at the gingerbread house, but the baker said the recipe couldn't be duplicated because her scones are based on people's fondest memories. She told me that she uses a basic recipe and adds certain ingredients after talking to each customer. That's what I've heard as well. Nora said, what did yours taste like? Oranges and cream. The woman's taste were considered bargain. The first bite brought me back to my grandmother's house in Florida. She had orange trees. During my visits, we baked the most delicious things. Our kitchen was filled with glitter and sunshine. I loved every minute I spent with her. Nora came out from inside the ticket booth. I have several cookbooks with scone recipes. The best one anyone could do is the greatest scone on their own. I'd settle for that, the woman said. She was younger than Nora, who was edging toward 40, but had the wise and slightly guarded eyes of someone who'd experienced decades worth of anguish in a very short period of time. If I could spend a few hours lost in memories of Granny, I would. As Nora led the woman to the cookbook section, two things occurred. First, the space above her pinky finger tingled again. Simultaneously, the second train whistle called at the imminent arrival of more people in search of healing. The woman had paused to pluck a Vaseline glass box from a bookshelf and hadn't noticed that Nora had just stopped moving. Granny had a fox just like this, the woman said, running her fingers down the fox's smooth back. Should let me touch all of her things, even when I was very young. My house was a veritable museum. It was more important to impress visitors than to be comfortable. What's your line of work? Nora asked. The woman's mouth dropped. I'm an accountant. I'm good at it, but I hate it. Do you still enjoy cooking? I don't know. I might. She sounded unsure. I might. Nora gestured at a club chair covered in purple velvet. I'm going to put a stack of books on that cushion. I think you need to read these books. If you read everyone in order, I believe you'll find an orange-scented, sun-filled kitchen of your own. 20 minutes later, the woman left with the fox and 2 shopping bags of books. One bag was weighed down with cookbooks, while the other held Eric Ripert's 32 Folks, Joanne Harris's Chocolat, Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club, Ernest Hemingway's A Movable Feast, Richard Morias' The 100-Foot Journey, Muriel Barbry's Gourmet Rhapsody, and Banana Yoshimoto's Kitchen. I watched a woman walk toward the park with a light, eager step and hoped the books would do their job. If they did, the woman would make messes in her kitchen. She would buy knickknacks for her tidy Spartan apartment. She would let her hair down and take chances. She would find joy. Still scanning the park square, Nora wondered where the trolley passengers had gone. The lodge's green trolley was parked in its usual place, but no lodge guests strolled the sidewalks or meandered from the row of quaint shops on Bath Street to the Lady Pink Grill or the Gingerbread House. Just then, a flash of red caught Nora's eye, and she groaned inwardly as a tall, shapely woman passed in front of the bookshop window. They yelled. The woman yanked the door open, ignoring the riotous clanging of the sleigh bells, settled into the closet chair.
This is a reminder.
Alexa, stop! Still scanning. Okay. Just then, a flash of red caught Nora's eye, and she groaned inwardly as a tall, shapely woman passed in front of the bookshop window. The woman yanked the door open, ignoring the riotous clanging of the sleigh bells, and settled into the closest chair like a queen awaiting the adulation of her subjects. Her pouty lips carved to a cat out with a crane grin. Consider your next bibliotherapy session cancelled. Hello to you too, said Stella. Nora picked up the stray paperbacks a customer had left on the table next to Stella's chair. I assume you're referring to the man I met on the park bench. Why isn't he coming? Did you scare him off? Me? Stella pretended to be affronted, but Nora wasn't falling for the act. I didn't even get a chance to meet him. I was up at the lodge wasting my time. I'm a man I thought had some potential, but he's already making payments to an ex-wife and needs to send 3 kids to college. There'd be nothing left for me. She waved him an manicured hand in dismissal. Nora was itching to reshelve the books and check on her coffee. Though she didn't dislike Estella, she was rarely at ease in her company. Recalling the strange sensation she'd experienced as the second train whistle blew, Nora felt an inexplicable prickle of dread. She jerked at them toward the window. Where's everyone? Estella's grin returned. At the train station, he'd been drawn there like flies to sugar. The sheriff rolled in a few seconds ago. Since he and I have never gotten along, I made myself scarce. Nora, who made it a point not to look people directly in the eye, forgot her rule and gave Estella an impatient stare. What happened? Just spit it out. Crossing her arms in disappointment, Estella murmured something about no one being any fun, but eventually complied with Nora's request. When your man on the bench placed an order for one of Hester's comfort scones, he asked her to box it because he was heading over here to see you. He left the bakery box in him, but he never made it to Miracle Books. Estella leaned back in the chair and smoothed the skirt of her white sundress. I'm sure he'd rather be sitting in this comfy chair than where he is now. Nora knew she wasn't going to like the answer to her question, but it had to be asked. Which is? On the tracks, Estella declared breathlessly. Someone pushed him in front of the 3 o'clock train.